Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. Among the top 10 countries showing resilience, Egypt ranked fourth with an index of 88.7 in the Economist Normalcy Index, tracking behavioral change due to the COVID-19 pandemic, due to the changes and the impact of world economic due to socioeconomic challenges over the past year. We have more details in the following report.
The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board said in its review of Egypt's reform program that Egypt responded to the coronavirus crisis with a timely and prudent fiscal monetary easing that helped mitigate the pandemic's health and social repercussions. In doing so, it said Egypt has managed to safeguard its economic stability, debt sustainability, and investor confidence. The report is the IMF's second and final review of Egypt's economic reform program that was supported by a 12-month standby arrangement. Last month, the IMF announced the completion of Egypt's $5.2 billion SBA loan and the completion of the second and final review of the program, paving the way for the country to receive the third tranche of the $1.6 billion loan. The fund commended Egypt's strong performance under the SBA in the review. The review praised the budget target of fiscal year 2021-2022 as Egypt strikes an appropriate balance between supporting the recovery and keeping public debt on the project path. The statement read that the envisaged pickup in growth should allow a return to the pre-crisis primary surplus from fiscal year 2022-2023 to put public debt back on a firmly downward trajectory. Continued progress on fiscal structural reforms was critical to ensure additional space for high-priority spending on health, education, and social protection. The statement praised the role of the Central Bank of Egypt and how its data-driven approach to monetary policy has helped anchor inflation expectations.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and we're glad to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon.
Well, sir, Minister of Trade and Industry Naveen Gama and CEO of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency said Egypt has broad ambitions for economic investment with the African continent. How do you see this, sir?
I see it a very positive attitude. I am one of the Egyptians who are informed with Africa. I served in Africa in several countries.
Yes.
And they know that there are a lot of opportunities for bilateral investment. And Egypt had made a good progress since we convinced our partners in the donor countries, in Europe, in China, in Japan, to come and to invest with us in Africa with the donors' money, with the Egyptian experience, with African opportunities. Still, we are doing fine, but not enough, and we can double our efforts. You know that we have a long experience in Africa with the Egyptian Fund for Economic Development in Africa. Now it is an agency, but the capital is not enough, so that's why we are inviting the donor countries and the rich countries to come and try with us to invest in Africa. Mm-hmm. The opportunities are a lot, opportunities, but we still have a lot to do.
Yes. Ambassador Bayoumi, Egypt aims to develop rapid plans to increase intra-regional trade and at the same time benefit from Africa's resources to reach sustainable development for all the African continent and all the African states. What's your comment on this?
We made a good progress since we joined the common market of East and South Africa, COMESA.
Yes.
Our trade with Africa is tripled since then, but it's not a good part of our foreign trade. Mm-hmm. And our trade with Africa is making a trade surplus to our trade balance. This is good, but not good enough, because I see that the opportunities are much more than we are doing up till now. That's why we are seeing now much more efforts in this concern, And of course, I support what our Minister of Trade and Industry is saying. And thank God that Africa doesn't need to have huge projects. We are talking about small and very small size projects and industry. We can try at the beginning in the food industry, canned food. We can try in the food industry also. There are a lot of opportunities. We can start in agriculture, of course, because Africa has huge areas which are not cultivated, while it can be cultivated easily. And of course, in Egypt and the Arab world, we still need a lot to cover our food needs. We import 60% or a little bit more of our food from abroad. This is not good enough, and while we have those opportunities to invest everywhere, especially in the African continent.
Yes. To what extent are there investment opportunities for the Egyptian companies in Africa, and in which countries, in which fields is it more appropriate?
Egyptians and Arabs are fond of investing in services. 80% of our new investments are going to services, and only 9% to industry and 2% to agriculture.
Yes.
While what I advise that we start by agriculture. There are a lot of opportunities in the agriculture sector, especially the cereal, the wheat, and the food in general. We can start in the industries for food, canned food, and so on. And but of course, I must be honest to you, saying that it is not that easy. Africa itself, it has a huge homework to be done. Still, Africa does not have enough ways and means of transport. The ports in Africa are not highly sophisticated. They cannot receive big ships. The airway traffic is not covering all the continent. The banking system needs to have a good visit to ameliorate the situation. Still, you don't have first-class banking system in many African countries. So, also what we call corruption. Corruption is not making bribes or things like that. Corruption, it means that bureaucracy is doing its work very slow and sometimes without understanding what are our real needs. So we have to train them. And I think Egypt is doing this in many of our institutions, bringing Africans to study and be trained in Egypt. And still we have a long way to go in this concern.
How can we overcome the challenges facing Egypt's investments in Africa, and especially ensuring the safety of the funds invested over there in the different countries?
We need good examples, small, good examples. Also, always we are searching for big elephants. Don't look for big elephants, it's too big. Start with small rabbits. Small projects here, small projects there. And I think that our young generation can do it if we give them a sort of $5 million and ways to cut wood and some tractors. This will cost you $3, $4, $5 million. Then you will get the timber in Africa less than half price of the price of getting the timber from Europe, for instance. So projects like that we can start, and if we give a good example here and there, it will encourage others and others to come and explore their possibility to invest. Also, our banks should support this. We should have a sort of banking system to support investment in Africa and to cover the risk of investment investment here and there, then you can encourage more and more people to go and try their luck.
What are the safest countries right now to start with? I mean, to start investing in?
Let us start with a very close friend of us, Sudan.
Yes.
I am of the generation who lived in the kingdom of Egypt and Sudan. We were one sole country. Sudan has huge area of land where you can cultivate wheat and cereals, but nobody is doing this. Ethiopia, and I think this is one way to bring Ethiopia to reason and to cooperate with us instead of challenging us concerning the water. Let us plant in Ethiopia, and we do not need more water there because Ethiopia, as you well know, is dependent on rains all the time. We can go to Cameroon. I was ambassador in Cameroon, where Cameroon is half of the Egyptian territory. But
Yes.
90% of Cameroon is able to be cultivated, but they don't. And I have this experience. I asked some experts of agriculture from Egypt to come and to see how Cameroon can do the job. Nigeria, name it. Many countries are ready, especially in the field of agriculture. Then we come slowly to cover also the industrial needs.
Yes. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Many thanks for your insight. And dear viewers, now going back to our special reports, the UN Special Envoy for Libya accused spoilers of trying to obstruct the holding of crucial elections in December to unify the divided North African nation, and the Security Council warned that any individual or group undermining the electoral process could face UN sanctions. More details.
Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General and head of the UN Support Mission in Libya, Jan Kubis, urged all Libyan leaders to intensify their efforts to continue with the path of peace through enabling the holding of national elections on the 24th of December 2021. In a greeting message on the occasion of Eid al-Adha, Kubis called upon all Libyan leaders and institutions to remember the message of peace, compassion and reconciliation that this occasion symbolizes, to put an end to the continued divisions in the country and to the hardship the Libyan people continue to endure. He also urged them to work together in a spirit of unity and patriotism, shoulder and share the responsibility to put the welfare and the interests of the Libyan people above narrow interests. He said Libya lives a glimmer of hope to get out of the dark tunnel it has been going through for years. On March 16, power was handed over from the former Presidential Council to the new one, and from the 2014 Government of National Accord GNA to the GNU, which is supposed to pave the way for holding elections on December 24. On March 15, the GNU members and Prime Minister took the oath of office before the Tobruk-based House of Representatives. The new chair of the Presidential Council is Mohammed Menfi, and the other two members are Musa al-Kurni and Abdullah al-Lafi. The Biba-Menfi list received the necessary votes in the ballot held by the UN-fostered Libyan National Dialogue Forum on February 6.
Welcome back. A bloody 8-month battle for control of the North Ethiopian state of Tigray has spilled over into the neighboring region of Afar in the past week. Details.
Ethiopia's Afar region called on civilians to take up arms against rebels from neighboring Tigray, signaling a potential escalation in fighting that has already displaced tens of thousands this week. Regional President Awol Arba said in an interview aired by regional state media that every Afar should protect their land with any means available, whether by guns, sticks or stones, adding that they will win the war with strong determination. Tigrayan rebels launched operations in Afar last weekend, saying they were targeting pro-government troops massing along the two regions' shared border. A government official said that more than 20 civilians had been killed and 70,000 people displaced in heavy fighting in Afar that was continuing. Rebel spokesman Gateshew Reda has described operations in Afar as a very limited action against special forces and militia fighters deployed to Afar by the Oromia region, Ethiopia's largest. But AWOL said Friday that claim was misleading. According to the United Nations, the fighting in Afar highlights the potential for Ethiopia's 8-month-old conflict to expand well beyond Tigray, where thousands of people have already been killed and hundreds of thousands pushed into famine. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops into Tigray last November to oust the region's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF), a move he said was in response to PLF attacks on Federal Army camps. Though Abiy declared victory later that month, the TPLF leaders remained on the run and fighting dragged on. Last month, the war took a stunning turn when pro-TPLF fighters reclaimed the Tigray capital Mekelle and Abiy declared a unilateral ceasefire.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.